everyone, it's Katie from Paradise Falls family. In this video we'll be covering part 2 of our vlog on our 4-night Halloween on the High Seas cruise on the Disney Dream in October 2023 to Bermuda. In part 1, which you can find on our channel already, we talk through our time on board and what we did on our cruise. In this vlog we'll talk about some of the more practical bits, give an overview of the ship and our tips for your trip. We've tried to cover off everything you might need, but just send us a message below if you have any questions. It's worth keeping in mind that the Disney Dream is the sister ship to the Disney Fantasy, which we've also sailed on, and the two are really similar in lots of ways. Before we get on to the cruise itself, let's start with check-in. If this is your first Disney cruise, you can do this 30 days before sailing. Other guests can check in sooner, depending on their Castaway Club level. Silver can check in 33 days before the cruise, Gold 35 days, Platinum 38 days, and Pearl 40 days before. The earlier you check in, the earlier boarding group you get assigned, which means you can get on the ship quicker. If you're in a concierge room, then it doesn't matter when you check in, as you're automatically assigned boarding group 1. If you arrange your transfers direct with Disney to the cruise, then you get assigned Group 2. A big perk here and something we like to do if we're going to the cruise from Walt Disney World. Online check-in with Disney Cruise Line can be a bit of a painful experience. It can be quite glitchy and things fill up quickly when your booking window opens. We've found that going to guest services as soon as you board the ship can really help with anything you didn't manage to sort out previously. This can be things such as moving dining sit-in, for example if you wanted early dining and it was showing as full, or can be used to book onto activities, either free or paid for, that were showing as sold out. This can be things like mixology classes or the princess greeting. It can also be used for things like getting that Paulo reservation you were after as well. You can also pre-book certain things before online check-in even opens, such as excursions and specialty dining. If you've never sailed before, this can be done 75 days before the cruise, and this goes up incrementally depending on your Castaway Club status again, with Pearl members being able to book 123 days prior to sailing. So starting at the beginning with embarkation and how this worked for us. As we were leaving from New York and we were staying in the city the night before, it was a really simple process, simply jumping in a taxi and nipping over to the pier in Midtown. We could have even walked this, but with the cases it would have been a bit of a slog. When we booked the cruise, we did ask about the boarding process and transfers, and we were quoted a private transfer organised by Disney for hundreds of dollars. A crazy price considering the taxi only cost around $20, so there's really no need to pre-book this for a New York cruise. Although getting there was easy, we did find the port in New York to be a bit disorganised, and we experienced delays in both boarding and disembarking, which I talked about in our previous vlog. For this reason, it wasn't the best experience, not as slick as Port Canaveral, which we've talked about in our Disney Wish vlog, which you can find in our cruise playlist. They really know what they're doing there and have made the process as easy as possible if you're sailing from Port Canaveral. Inside, the terminal itself was nice enough, but there were queues and it did get crowded. We were eventually aboard an hour or so after our pre-booked time, and we were free to enjoy the ship. We normally take a day bag with us on board, including swimwear to enjoy the pools before they get too busy. It was a little cold in New York in October, not really pool weather, so we were able to carry a little less with us this time. Something else to briefly mention for embarkation is the muster drill. This is a mandatory safety drill everyone has to participate in once on board. Instructions are given on the app, and our meeting place was in the theatre. This differs depending on your stateroom location. It only takes around 20 minutes, so it's pretty painless, but make sure to get along on time. Okay, now we're on to the ship. I'll give you a quick overview of the layout to help you get your bearings. I won't go into massive detail here, as there's loads of walkthrough tours on YouTube, but just to give you an idea, the ship is split into 14 decks with 3 banks of elevators. Decks 6 to 10 are predominantly staterooms, and then you've got the health centre on deck 1. which overall means you'll be spending most of your time on decks 2 to 5 and decks 11 to 14. 2 to 5 are your indoor dining and entertainment options, and 11 to 14 are some of the top outdoor decks. Starting at the bottom, Deck 2 is where you'll find Enchanted Garden, as well as some staterooms. Deck 3 is home to the theatre, the main shopping area, guest services, Royal Palace, Animator's Palette, and of course the main lobby, which is spread across 3 floors. Deck 4 contains most of the bars and lounges, as well as the second floor of the theatre and the cinema. Finally, Deck 5 contains the kids areas, the Oceaneer Club, Nursery and Vibe, as well as the cinema again, and also the Bibbity Bobbity Boutique. Moving up to the outer decks, Deck 13 and 14 house the Edge, which is an area dedicated to tweens and young teens, and also the sports deck. Then there's a whole host of stuff on Decks 11 and 12 where you'll spend a lot of your time. This is mainly the pools, slides, splash areas alongside the Funnel Vision big screen, but you've also got the spa, fitness centre, Remy and Paolo, 2 additional charge high-end restaurants, and then you've got some more bars and cafes. At the back of Deck 11 is where you'll find Cabanas, the buffet restaurant, and then moving outside you've got Vanellope's sweet treats and then more quick service pool bars. I've mentioned dining a lot so far, so let's look at that next. There are 3 main restaurants on the ship: Royal Court, which is princess themed, Enchanted Garden, which is inspired by the gardens of Versailles, and Animator's Palette, which is animation themed and is loads of fun. These are located on Decks 2 and 3, and you rotate between them with a different restaurant on each night. If you're on a 4-night cruise or longer, you'll obviously visit them more than once, and this is randomly assigned, along with your dining schedule. This can be found in your app when you board the ship. Your servers stay with you for the duration of the cruise, meaning you really get to know them and they you, so they know your preferences and any allergy information, which was really handy for our group. There are 2 dining sit-ins, one at 5:45 and one a little later, and you can request your preferred seating when you book your cruise if there's still availability. Having young kids and being from the UK and dealing with jet lag, we always go for the early one so the kids aren't too tired by the time they come to eat, and this works really well for us as we can then relax and enjoy the evening show with some treats afterwards. Normally this works brilliantly, but as I explained in part 1, with the delays it meant we sailed past the skyline and the Statue of Liberty while we were sat inside eating, so it wasn't really ideal. Make sure to keep this in mind if you're booking this cruise out of New York. All of the food and drink in these restaurants is included in the cost of your cruise, except for alcohol and specialty drinks. Outside of the 3 main restaurants, you've also got Paolo and Remy, which are paid for additional restaurants you can visit. These do book up well in advance though, so make sure you get a reservation if you want to dine here. Then in terms of quick service, your main option is Cabanas. Cabanas is a quick service buffet with loads of options, and the menu varies each day. They're also more than happy to accommodate allergies, and you just need to ask one of the chefs and they'll prepare something specially for you, as with all of the other restaurants. There are also mandatory hand washing stations as you enter to ensure the highest possible hygiene standards. Cabanas is the main option for breakfast too, which means it does get very busy, although this is usually pretty well managed. Another option to get around this is to eat in one of the main 3 dining rooms for a more formal setting, as there's always one designated to be open at lunch or breakfast time, where you can go and you don't need to reserve a table. Or you can even try room service, which again is totally free, although make sure to tip the cast member bringing you your food. You can easily order this by marking up your choices on the hanger found in your stateroom and leaving this on the door the night before, so you have breakfast waiting for you when you wake up. If you want it other times of the day, you can just look on the app and order over the phone. We've done this many times and would really recommend it if you don't fancy heading out. We find lunchtimes in Cabanas to be a little quieter, as there are a few more options around the pool open at this time. Some of these are great options. We didn't try them much this time with it being cooler and us spending less time on the pool decks, but we've really enjoyed them when we sailed on the Fantasy a few years ago, which is a really similar ship. These food stations have easy options such as burgers, pizzas, salads and sandwiches. You definitely won't go hungry when you're on Disney Cruise Line. Moving on to the swimming pools, the main two are Donald and Mickey's pool on deck 11, located in front of the funnel vision. This is a great spot to chill and cool off while watching a movie. As with any cruise ship, they do get crowded, but if you go later in the evening, they're much quieter, and it's a lovely place to spend the evening. In terms of slides, you've got the Aqueduct, which is a brilliant water coaster, and like the pools, we'd recommend trying this at night when the queues are lowest. As well as this, you've then got Mickey's Slide, plus the Nemo Reef splash pad for toddlers. As well as the pools, one of the other popular options for the kids are the kids clubs, and these are superb on the Disney ships. They cater for all ages, going from the It's a Small World nursery for the babies, to the Oceaneer Club, up to the Edge and Vibe for older kids and teens. Our kids fit nicely in the Oceaneers Club, which is for ages 3 to 10. There's so much to do, and we touched on this in part 1 of our vlog, as well as our Disney Wish vlogs, which we've done previously. The kids love these areas, and while we of course don't want them in there all of the time, we usually let them have an hour or two at a time before we pick them up again. It's also worth noting that they don't provide food in the clubs, so keep this in mind for pick up and drop off times. Otherwise, the hours are really flexible, with it being open from around 9 AM to around midnight. Kids are free to play whatever they want, but there's also loads of scheduled activities, character meets and games throughout the day, so make sure to check the app for details of these. To access the club, you need to pre-register, although you can do this once on board, and then you drop them off and pick them up at the entrance on deck 5. Moving on to entertainment, there's just far too much to mention here, but the main thing we'd recommend is to make use of the onboard app. As soon as you get on board, get set up. This is essential when you're on board and you don't need a Wi-Fi package to access it. This shows you all of the activities on offer, as well as your dining plan for the whole cruise. It has a schedule for the theatre shows, the cinema, character meet and greets, and all of the other things on offer each day. We found it's worth making a list of everything you want to do and spending a little bit of time planning it all out too, as some events only run on certain days and times. Rather than list everything that we got up to, you can check out part 1 of our vlog to see what we managed to fit in. But there's still plenty that we just didn't have time for. First off is the spa and the additional restaurants Paolo and Remy. We've classed these together as these are the things we kind of group as non-kid friendly activities, so far we've not attempted to try them. However, we've heard they're amazing and would really like to try them one day when the timing is right. Next up are all of the bars and lounges situated around the ship. We didn't get a chance to try as many of these on this trip, but we tried a couple on the Fantasy, which is the Dream's sister ship, and there's so many lovely spots. And finally, I think just pool time. We had 4 nights, but with the weather being a bit iffy, we didn't find much time for just relaxing in the pool, which leads me on to the length of the cruise. In our Disney Wish vlog last year, we said that we thought 4 nights wasn't long enough really. We found this cruise a little bit better with just 1 day short rather than 2, and with it not really being pool weather, so that wasn't an option. However, I think we still do think a longer cruise will be better to give you more time to relax into the cruise and take things slower. Our very first cruise was a week, which we thought was a perfect length, and our second was a staycation cruise with only days at sea, so that was also really relaxed. I think if you're planning to go ashore, which we always do, then maybe 5 nights is the minimum I think we'd want going forwards, just to make sure that we get that time to slow down, enjoy the ship and relax a bit more. Our next cruise with Disney is in August and it's a 7-night Alaska cruise. We're so excited to go back to a longer cruise. Moving on to staterooms. A lot is said about the size of cruise staterooms. Although they're small, we've never found this to be a problem, and we don't usually spend a lot of time in the room. We're a family of 4, so we always have a sofa which converts to a bed and then a pull-down bunk bed. This works just fine for us. Our room on this occasion had a balcony, which was lovely. We thought it would be really useful to enjoy the skyline as we sailed in and out of New York. However, it didn't quite work with the timings in the end, and with the weather being so wild, we didn't really use it much. I think with a longer cruise, or with better weather, we probably would have seen more value in this. But on a short cruise in October, we probably would have been fine with just an inside room. On the other hand, when we've stayed in an inside room before, we've noticed it does feel a bit strange not to be able to see daylight without a bit of a walk, so it's not our preferred room type. Ultimately though, for us, it comes down to cost. If a balcony room is good value, we'll book it. If not, we're quite happy sticking with an inside stateroom. Also, just a quick note here on location. We've never previously worried too much about our deck or whether we were forward, midship or aft. However, on this cruise, with the weather being so choppy, we really did regret booking a room right at the front of the ship. We definitely look to go for midship next time, just in case, as we found being in midship really did help reduce the movement when we were feeling ill. Touching on practicalities, on embarkation, rooms are available from around 2 p.m, with room keys left on your door in a sealed envelope. Your luggage is left right outside your room for you to bring in when you arrive. I'll touch on the debarkation process in a moment. A few more bits and pieces first though. One of the things we love to do when on board a Disney cruise ship is to take part in a Fish Extender gift exchange group. This is a small group you enter into beforehand by using a Facebook group with around 8 other families, and you agree to exchange small gifts while on board, leaving them hanging on everyone's stateroom door. These are often different themes, and it's a great way to get to know people if you wish, or just to enjoy giving a gift. Our kids love dropping them off and exploring the ship, as well as the excitement of finding gifts waiting for them when we get back to our room, so it's something we'd always recommend when cruising with Disney. Next up is placeholders. This is something we've always done, and it's basically a discount you can lock in for your next Disney cruise. By paying $250 up front, you can lock in a 10% discount off your next Disney cruise, subject to a few exclusions. It's fully refundable and lasts for 2 years, so for us it's a no-brainer as we're planning a couple of cruises over the next few years. The $250 you paid then gets deducted from the price of your discounted cruise. You can easily do this on board in your app. Make sure to do it before you disembark though, or you'll have missed your chance to lock in this discount. And finally, moving on to disembarkation. This is the worst part of the cruise by far, but Disney tried to make it as painless as possible. You need to pack up your luggage the night before and leave it outside of your room by around 10 p.m. Disney will then take it off the ship for you the next morning, where you can find it waiting for you at the port when you disembark. Alternatively, you can walk your luggage off yourself the next morning if you'd prefer. Also, make sure to review your tip sheet, which is left in your room the night before you get off. Tips are automatically added for each of the main cast members who look after you, your stateroom host and those in the restaurants. This is calculated as a set amount per person per night, varying by cast member, and you can flex this as much as you want if you've had extra special service which you'd like to recognise. The next morning, every room is assigned a time and location for breakfast if they want any. This is usually very early so they can process everyone off the ship in time. For us, it was just before 7 a.m. in the Enchanted Garden restaurant. There's usually a reduced menu, which isn't great for those with allergies, and then you walk straight off the ship with any luggage you may still have with you. On this occasion, we decided to try cabanas instead. You can visit this at any time it's open, which makes it much more flexible, and for us it was a much more relaxing way to enjoy breakfast, despite it being pretty busy. Once off the ship, you can pick up your luggage, pass through customs and be on your way. Usually this runs fairly smoothly, but on this occasion in New York there were big delays and queues getting off, so it was a bit of a nightmare. However, once we were off the ship, we were able to get our luggage and leave the terminal. Again, there was a little bit of a wait for a taxi with everybody wanting one with it being in New York, but it wasn't too bad and we got on our way. So that brings us to the end of our cruise. We've tried to cover off all of the key things which may be useful for you on your cruise, but if there's anything at all you want to know, please just message us in the comments below. In our next video, we'll be looking a bit more at our time on Bermuda, so make sure to subscribe to our channel to catch that and to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching.